In every production, there are always problems. Some problems come a little bit at a time, some crop up here and there. That particular night, we had all the problems all put together. It was a night that nothing worked.
This was one of the most memorable experiences for me, and I guess to many other people on the crew and in connection with the show. Not because it was enjoyable, not because everything went right, but because everything went wrong.
It was a big scene. We had like 30 of the fishing boats. They all had torches, and they had samurais with bows and arrows. And the only way we could light it was by putting the arcs. This could only be about 50, 60 yards out.
Now you have to understand that this was taking place at night. Night photography is difficult. Night photography on water is impossible. No ship ever stays in the same position. No boat ever stays in the same position. No camera barge ever stays in the same position. Nothing is stable. So when the boats shift, the lights that are over here have a different effect. All of this had to be coordinated.
I said, you know something? If we take the fishing boats and we put them out another 25 yards, because the tide's going this way, and I start Blackthorne ship this way, by the time tide brings them in, and when they're lined up perfectly, I give him the cue, he fires, and it'll work. Bercovici says to me, you're never going to get this shot. And I said, oh, yes, we are, though. There's a way we get it. He said, no, you're not going to get this one.
And I saw everything going wrong. And Jerry is trying to get everything organized, and I kept saying, won't happen, Jerry. It's not going to happen. Richard was on the galley with a bunch of Japanese actors playing samurai, all of which had muskets.
And at a certain point, I was to yell, now! And everybody was to shoot off their muskets, which were sort of one-shot deals, and all hell was to break loose, and the war was to begin. Just before dawn, finally somebody said, okay, let's do it.
Roll the cameras, they're all set up. And I said, I'll give you the cue, don't just wait for the cue, okay. So, sure enough, the tide's bringing in the fishing boats, and they're rowing, and they're rowing, and they're going forward, and things are getting closer together, closer together, closer together.
The camera was on a barge, kind of sailing around in between all this activity. And I suddenly realized that I didn't know how to time my line.
Everything was moving. All the boats were rigged to explode. All the little boats were rigged to explode. And there was a degree of confusion, and Richard said,
Jerry, when do you want me to say now?
You gonna tell me when to say now?
Yes, sir. Okay. No, don't fire!
No.
Hearing Richard say it, the whole set blew up. Every musket was fired, every little boat blew up, and all I could do was laugh. I mean, what else could you do? It was either going to laugh or cry.
Richard's boat goes by, and he looked up at me and says, hey, Jerry, I think I screwed up. And I looked at Eric, who was not there. He was on the barge with me when he was there. I looked down, he's on the barge, laying down, holding his sides and laughing and saying, I told you weren't going to get this.
Now, I did have enough forethought to bring along a bottle of scotch because I needed some help that night.
One of the most ambitious scenes in Shogun was the galley ship going through the barrier that's blocked off by the fishing boats. We had to shoot it at night. We had about 15 fishing boats, 3 camera boats, and the galley ship. The problem was lighting it, and we were on water, so we had a breakwater, so we put the arcs along the breakwater, put all the boats in the water, and the problem was that the tide was moving around the fishing boats so much that we could never really line them up for a good camera shot. So we spent most of the night working out the logistics of not only lighting it, but figuring out how we were going to line up everything so that the 3 cameras could film the blasting of the boats. Richard Chamberlain's cue on a walkie-talkie from me was now. And it took so long to line it up that everybody kind of fell asleep on the boat while we were waiting to put it together. Eventually, the problem was worked out. We figured out which way the tide was going, and we put the fishing boats 50 yards out and started rolling the cameras, hoping that within 3 or 4 minutes, the tide would bring them in line with the galley boat, and then Richard fired. It was all lined up together to blast all the boats. So we woke up the crew. It was like 2 in the morning, and said, okay, let's go. We lit all the torches. We started rolling the cameras. Everything was ready, and it took 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and finally Richard thought I had forgotten to cue him, and he said, hey, Jerry, when do I say now? As soon as the Japanese heard the word now, all the charges went off, everything was blasted, and of course the camera was not in position. That night was a total bust because of interpretation of language, basically. So the next night we went back, and since we had a great rehearsal on it, we got it.